Thank you for joining me. We're going to make some adorable little ridges for your baby dragon's baby blanket. You might be ready to make another ridge, or you might be starting at the very front where the hood is, now that you've picked up all these great stitches. Either way, the setup row begins with knit 3 together through the back loop. The setup row is entirely through the back loop to further twist and stabilize these picked up stitches. So 3. Now I'm going to do 4 individuals. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to knit 2 together through the back loop, then do 4 individuals. The 2 togethers just even out the ratio of these picked up stitches, which were row by row, and these sideways stitches that I'm making that are side by side. Now a 2 and a 4. Oop. 1, 2, 3, 4, and another 2. If these picked up stitches for some reason did not get twisted as you picked them up, you can twist them now. There we go. 2 together and 4 individuals. Setup row is entirely through the back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hooray! Turn the work. Great. Slip 1. And pass this working yarn between the needle tips away from you so that it's back there, which is technically the right side of the work. Now I simply, this is a wrong side row, knit across right up to the beginning of this group of stitches on my needle. Doo, 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 doo. One of the reasons this is a garter stitch project is because it's a little mooshier, and baby dragons love things that are a little mooshier. And another reason is that if your stitch is a little funny, you're a couple of stitches off, doesn't matter. I knit all the way toward the front edge, the hood edge, turn back. Let's do that again. This is the right side row. Slip 1. Pass the yarn between the needle tips away from you. It begins with a knit 2 together after the slip. And now knit across. These can be regular knit stitches as I'm doing, or you can keep going through the back loop if you feel like it. Does not matter. Garter stitch hides a lot of the really fancy, clear stitch definition. So, yay. Do it the way that is fun for you, the way that's maybe easiest on your hands. On the right side row, you knit to 1 before your previous turning stitch. So we turned on this stitch, as we can tell from the color. So we're going to knit to 1 before that. And this will be our turning stitch. So here I go. I turn the work. I slip the stitch that I just made pass the yarn back, and knit across. The joy of garter stitch, la la la, knit across. When I'm knitting toward the hood, smooth that a little bit. When I'm knitting toward the hood, I go all the way up all the stitches. All right. Now I'm going to show you, in the pattern I mentioned that there is a cool super secret ninja way to do this without turning back and forth. And if you've got a big baby dragon blanket on your lap, you might not want to be turning this whole thing every row. So here we go. I see I turned on this one, I turned on this stitch. I'm going to knit to that one. That's going to be my next turning stitch. Okay. Snug up my needles. What do we do on the right side? Slip one, pass the yarn back, knit two together through the back loop, and knit across to our turning point. I think this is our new turning point, right? Alrighty, now I'm going to do it the way that I don't have to turn the whole baby blanket. Without turning, I'm going to purl backwards. Always slip that first stitch, bring the yarn to the opposite side of the work, to the right side of the work. With my left hand needle, I go between the waiting stitches, come forward, the tip of that left needle is toward me, and I came through a leg of the waiting stitch. Make a loop around it. Pull that loop through. Drop the old stitch, and wow, I've got a purl bump. I went backward in my knitting. I am purling backward. That's so cool. So, between, come forward, picking up a leg of the waiting stitch, make the new loop, pull that loop through, drop the old loop. And if you are not ready to try that, that is fine. If you are itching to try that, that is fine. And if you decide you want to purl on the right side and knit backward on the wrong side because you know how to knit backward and you don't want to purl backward, that's fine. Ooh, last one. Last one can be gently squirrely. There we go. Okay. Forward we go. Now I'm on the right side. Slip one, move the yarn back. Knit two together through the back loop. Knit to one before my turning stitch. I will continue in this manner, but if you got it, you got it. I'd like to keep going for those of you who aren't sure that you know when to stop making the ridge. Okay, I see that this stitch is turned a little bit and that it's clinging to its friend where everything else is spread out. So I know this was my previous turning stitch. So this is my new turning stitch. Make the stitch. Now I'm going backwards. Slip. Yarn comes toward me. Roll backwards. So if you want to speed it up or jump toward the end, that is fine. I'm just going to sit with you and make the little dragon ridge. Oop, my yarn is a little bit tangled. There we go. All the way to the hood edge. All right, I'm going to untangle my needle from the yarn. I don't know about you, but I like to use circular needles for everything. Slip one yarn back. This is not a circular project. You certainly didn't have to use circular needles, but it does keep the weight of a project centered in your lap instead of out on the edges of your little fingers. It's the right side. So I'm going to knit to my turning stitch. Let's stop and take a look. Okay, this was my previous turning stitch, so I know this will be my new turning stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4 turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turning stitch. I make the stitch and I slip it back, move my yarn toward me because I'm sorry, I didn't mean to shake the camera. And I'm about to make purl bumps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I just like numbers. I'm not counting because you have to count. I just like numbers. All right, right side, slip, yarn to the back, knit 2 together through the back loop. What happens if you forget to knit 2 together through the back loop? Nothing bad happens. Just remember it next time. I hope that this project is so straightforward and easy for you that you realize you're 2 stitches short and then you don't care. I think that was my own. Let's take a look. Yep, I think this was my previous turning stitch, so now I'm turning on this one. What if I got that wrong? What if I turned too early? Ah, well, no big. Let it go. If you need, for your own sense of wellness, to go back and make it perfect, that's great. Go for it. If you don't need to, good for you. Let it go. Slip, pass the yarn back because now I'm knitting 2 together through the back loop. Knit, 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 knit. Take a look. Ah, this was my previous turning stitch. This is my new turning stitch. I knit it, I turn backward. Purl, 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 purl. What to do? I can tell I'm getting close to the top of my ridge. because my rows are so much shorter. Slip one, pass the yarn back, knit two together through the back loop. Knit forward to my turning point. 1, 2, 2. Oh yeah, I think this was my last turning point. So here's my new turning point. I'm down to 5 stitches. Pass and roll backward. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip and pass it backward. Knit two together through the back loop. Let's look carefully where my turning stitch is. I think this was my old turning stitch. And this is my turning stitch for this row. Wow. I am going to make that stitch. Go back to the hood edge. And realize I have only 3 stitches in that row. What if there were 2? That's okay. That's okay. No worries. But this is my signal. I have 3 or 2 stitches left. This is my signal to bind off this little dragon ridge, which I do by this method. Slip and pass back. Return it. I just like having the yarn on the correct side. And now I knit 2 together, pass back. Knit 2 together, pass back. And this is if you were binding off with me many stitches ago at the end of the main color section. This is the method I use. Stitch together, pass back. It's a stretchy bind off. It's easy to remember. It moves along pretty quickly. And I use it on most of my projects. On the dragon spine ridge, we do it until there are only 2 stitches of contrast color left, and boo, 2 stitches of contrast color. We have made an adorable little dragon spine ridge. Love it. And as you know, we're going to start the next one with knit 3 together through the back loop, which stabilizes this new ridge that I'm about to make to this old ridge that I just finished, just as these guys are stabilized together. Look at us. Again, if you make an error, that's okay. Baby dragons do not care. Baby dragons care about being loved and wrapped up in something lovingly handmade for them, right? All right. Thank you so much for working.